Today, we're looking at a pink ink by Jentle Peche. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, there's timestamps in the description down below, so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. You can also follow me over on Instagram, and if you're new here, I do fountain pen ink reviews every single day, so I would invite you to subscribe. In order to make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I then inked up this Retro 51 Tornado with a broad nib. I used it to write for a day and to take the notes for this video. In order to standardize some of the writing sample, I always use Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. Now, more papers are tested, and they'll show up a bit later. Now, let's look at the writing sample. I picked this ink up in sample form, so it came in a vial like this. And to keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading throughout it. 6 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, and the same very nice shading that's going on in the extra fine. 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show good color variation, and we get that in the writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding, very, very minor, almost non-existent Tomoe River ghosting. It is a very light ink. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, or shade. 12 seconds to dry. Medium is darker than the extra fine, not as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. 20 seconds to dry. Now the scrubby for both do show some color variation, but it's not coming through in the writing. And Rhodia. No bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer some shading. If you look at Peche, you see some darker letters towards the end, lighter letters towards the beginning. It's very nice. Extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, some very nice shading that's going on. 8 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the extra fine, with no feather spread, halo sheen, still very nice shading going on. 13 seconds to dry, certainly much easier to read here than here. Scrubby for both show us good color variation, and we do get it in both the writings. I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is a very light purple that moves its way up with a light pink and then a very solid yellow there that's very easy to see. Now the one on the right I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water, and that purple is much more gathered on the bottom. We start to see a little bit of water separation between that light purple and that pink, and the yellow basically looks the same. So it does mean that we think that that purple might try to hold out just a little bit. Resistance tests are done to see how well this ink can be expected to perform on the page and how hard it may be to clean from your pen. I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I feel perfectly safe using this in a note-taking situation if I want to be able to go back and highlight. We're having no real problems. Now water is reactivating and lifting everything except that purple that was on the very bottom of the second chromatography. That's really getting in there, and it's not moving a whole lot. It seems to be, everything on top of that, the water's moving. Pen flush is reactivating and all of it, and it's getting all of it off the paper with no problem. 30 seconds it sat there, and it's all gone. 1/3 bleach solution completely obliterates it, but there's no need to use bleach to get this out of your pen. I only had to use water to get it out of my pen.
As far as viscosity or flow, for the inks I've tested, I've found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9.
Sailor's Peche has a viscosity of 1.27, making this a super wet ink.
To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. I average those, and for the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with a realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds.
Sailor's Peche has an average dry time of 12 seconds, so despite it being super wet, its dry time is only a little bit fast. Instead of finding inks that look like Sailor's Peche, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. So I went with a nice blue, Robert Oster's Blue Sea.
The second writing sample is done on Life, Levenger, and Franklin Kristoff paper.
Here we're looking at Life paper. Now with Life paper we get no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, a nice light peppering of shading throughout, 6 seconds to dry. Medium is just a hair darker than the extra fine with no feather spread, halo sheen, a whole lot more shading coming through than we got with the extra fine. 12 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both do show us some color variation on the left to right, and we do get it in the writing. How about Levenger paper? Well, no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 is no feather spread, halo sheen. It has shading that if you really look at it, you can see some darker letters that occur. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, a very nice light peppering of shading with 4 seconds to dry. Medium is a little bit darker than the extra fine, not quite as dark as the stub, with no feather spread, halo sheen, even better shading going on than we got with the extra fine. Fantastic here, 8 seconds to dry. Scrubby for both show us tons of color variation, and we get tons of color variation in that writing. And last up is Franklin Kristoff paper, with no bleeding, no ghosting. It's a little bit more absorbent paper, which is something to keep in mind, as the 1.1 has no feather spread, halo sheen, and no shade. The extra fine is quite a bit lighter than the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade, 2 seconds to dry. Medium is the same tone as the stub with no feather spread, halo sheen. It does offer places with some shading. Look at the word fox. Look at the word over. It's there. It's quite difficult to really pull out. 4 seconds to dry. Now, the scrubby for both do show us some color variation, very little with the extra fine. We really didn't get it there, but we did get some with the medium, and that is all that I have for writing samples. So what do I think of Sailor Peche? I was expecting this to be too light a tone for me to use looking at it in a sample vial, and I was pleasantly surprised on how wrong I was. It's not too light to comfortably read. It goes down very nice. There's spots of shading that do occur. This is a very good pink. So what nib and pen give the best writing experience with this ink? A wet broad puts it down where it's dark enough that even in its lightest tones, it is very easily read, and it gives you the added benefit of still having some very nice shading. I'm going to remind you that I'm here every day with a new ink review. Thanks for watching.